Welcome to Elected. I'm your host, Luke Rattles. Last night, President Joe Biden sat down with 60 Minutes for an interview that really focused on the positives.
Mr. President, you are the oldest president ever.
Pretty good shape, huh?
Your approval rating in the country is well below 50%. And I wonder why you think that is. How would you say your mental focus is? Some people ask whether you are fit for the job. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think.
Follow-up question, Mr. President. Why are you such an old fart? But good old Joe had an answer for Scott Pelley.
You are more aware of this than anyone. Some people ask whether you are fit for the job. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think.
Watch me. I mean, honest to God, that's all I think. Watch me.
The president also gave an interesting answer when asked whether he'll be running for re-election in 2024.
I take it the decision has not been made in your own head.
Look, my intention, as I said to begin with, is that I would run again. But it's just an intention. But is it a firm decision that I run again? That remains to be seen.
Do you hear that? It's the sound of 37 Democratic presidential exploratory committees launching simultaneously. But since he's still the president for now, Joe Biden weighed in on a bunch of issues, starting with the economy.
The annual inflation rate came in at 8.3%. The stock market nosedived. People are shocked by their grocery bills. What can you do better and faster?
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective. Inflation rate month to month was just an inch, hardly at all.
You're not arguing that 8.3 is good news.
No, I'm not saying it is good news, but it was 8.2 or 8.2 before. I mean, it's not, maybe I can make it sound like all of a sudden, my God, it went to 8.2%.
Yeah, guys, you shouldn't be so surprised by the record high inflation. After all, we've had record high inflation throughout Joe Biden's presidency, which is something we should give him credit for.
It's the highest inflation rate, Mr. President, in 40 years.
I got that. But guess what we are? We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked. It has just barely, it's been basically even.
Yeah, guys, he's got it, okay? Things are gonna stay even. And by even, he means even worse than his economists thought back when they said this was all gonna go away soon. It was transitory. Speaking of things that presidents have falsely said were gonna go away soon, coronavirus was the next subject of discussion, and the president made some news.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
That's right, everyone. You can finally leave your houses, take off your masks, and stop drinking hand sanitizer. I'm still going to do that last one, though, because I just like the flavor. Now, according to Politico, President Biden's remarks about the pandemic caught his health officials by surprise, which is crazy because judging by their response to COVID, they seem so well prepared for everything. The interview then turned to affairs overseas and the potential invasion of Taiwan.
On the same day we spoke to the president, Putin met with China's leader, Xi Jinping. There's concern that Russia's attempt to force reunification with Ukraine could inspire China to attack the island of Taiwan. U.S. policy since 1979 has been to recognize Taiwan as part of China, but remain silent on whether the U.S. military would defend the democratic government there.
That's right, strategic ambiguity. It's a strategy used by the United States government between China and Taiwan, and also by most girls in junior high when I would ask them out on a date. It was never really a firm yes or no. It was always just, we'll see what happens. Usually didn't. But you know who seemed ready to go out with Taiwan? President Biden.
But would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
After our interview, a White House official told us U.S. policy has not changed. Officially, the U.S. will not say whether American forces would defend Taiwan.
Whoa. How can they just come out and say the White House says there's not been a change in policy? Joe Biden is in charge of the White House. He was the guy who got elected. That would be like if KFC came out and said, we recognize that Colonel Sanders wants to use 12 herbs and spices from now on, but we're just going to stick with the 11. Like, no, he's in charge. He's the guy on the sign. You have to do what he says. Look, this is a wide-ranging and very newsy interview with the president by 60 Minutes, and I think they did a great job, with one exception. I feel like there was one question that they didn't get to ask, but luckily, I got the chance to.
The story will continue in a moment.
Mr. President, thank you so much for coming on my show and for doing it from my dorm room. Hey there, Luke. It's great to be here, you know. This interview, you're gonna get more subdued Joe Biden, mellow Joe, you know? So, fire a question at me. I got it. Watch me. Watch me. I feel like Scott Pelley of CBS News covered basically everything that the American people wanted to know, except for one key question. So, here it goes. Sir, is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes, absolutely. You know, when you got the meat and the condiments and then the bread around it, it's gotta be a sandwich. After our interview, a White House official told us U.S. policy has not changed. Officially, the U.S. will not say whether a hot dog is a sandwich, but the commander-in-chief had a view of his own. To be clear, sir, the position of the United States government is that a hot dog is in fact a sandwich. Yes. It's good enough for me. Thanks for watching. Elected.